Welcome back to the channel and to more Euro Fantasy content. In this video and podcast, I'll be discussing my team selection for Matchday 2, and I'll be keeping my options open in terms of using the Wildcard, Limitless, or using 2 free transfers. I'll be showing you my plans for each of those chips or scenarios and then assessing where I currently stand, but I will make my final decision after all the games have concluded in Matchday 1, and you'll see my final squad during the deadline stream on Wednesday, so be sure to tune in by smashing the like button and subscribing for new. Let's try to get this video to the 200 likes, and let's keep on pushing towards new goals such as 25,000 subscribers. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, RCM, and check all the other links in the description below for my Patreon, the Championships Discord server, and the Euro Fantasy League. And the code is JCRHjQ. The J is lowercase and the rest are capitals. There's also a link to my Spotify. I'd greatly appreciate it if you leave a 5-star review and also follow me on that platform. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. To kick things off, I'll be briefly recapping on how I did in Matchday 1, but there are still several players that are yet to play, and by the time this video is published for all subscribers, you would have seen certain results and you would have known how they did, and you would have a better sense of how my points are looking like than I do at the time of this recording, which is Monday afternoon before Belgium take on Slovakia. But I'm going to start with the goalkeeper, and I do have someone in reserve if I want to make that substitution, so this is not finalised for my Matchday 1 team, and the main focus of course will be on Matchday 2 and my transfer plans. Considering how Lunin did against Romania in that 3-0 loss, he gifted that goal to kick things off. I had Verbruggen who got 4 points, and I have a big decision to make. Do I stick with Verbruggen with his 4-pointer or make that substitute with Diogo Costa? And at the moment, I'm looking to go for Diogo Costa in goal on the 18th of June, and I haven't made the sub yet, but I'm very likely to. And down in the comment section below, I want to see your thoughts. I'll likely put a poll out on my channel as well, but that is definitely a very interesting one. I think Diogo Costa can keep a clean sheet, and even if it doesn't pay off, it's only a loss of 2 or 3 points unless something goes horribly wrong in that Portugal versus Czech Republic game. So the current plan is to sub Diogo Costa on. He has had a great season with Porto. The start of my match day is a centre-back of 4.5 million won at that in Mark Gay, who had a very impressive debut at the Euros. He got 8 points overall with a clean sheet and 2 ball recovery points, but I have to say, things are looking quite grim when a 4.5 million defender is looking like your best Euro Fantasy asset. But there's still a little while to go at the time of this recording. I'm hoping for much better from the other defenders because they have been disappointing. You look at Mittelstadt, he got 3 points, and it could have been a clean sheet there for the host nation Germany in their 5-1 win. But Antonio Rudiger scored a comical own goal, and that is a bit of bad fortune there for those with German defenders, particularly those who doubled or tripled up there on Germany. But the third defender, and I have to say this, Wildcard has just conceded to Slovakia, and we'll wait and see what the final result is, but that just isn't good. It's not what you want to see. Hopefully he can get some ball recovery points, but I subbed him on and I won't be able to sub him back out. You can only make 4 substitutions during the match day, and I tend to have those playing on the latter days of the match day on my bench, and I bring them on for my lowest scoring players, but it's not looking good for my defensive line, and Mark Gay is doing a massive carry job. But I do have one premium who is yet to play, and this Portuguese double up can really pay dividends with João Cancelo against Czech Republic, who are a decent team, but Portugal have a great record against them, and João Cancelo has scored against them in the past. So I'm hoping for the very best because Wout and Mittelstadt look very disappointing at the moment. If you thought my defence was bad, just look at my midfield, and to be fair, Højbjerg is never going to be the most appealing Euro Fantasy asset, but he can get ball recoveries as he showed in that game against Slovenia, which ended 1-1, and Højbjerg had a few shaky moments himself, but before the Euros began, he scored in 3 consecutive games for Denmark, so it's unfortunate he couldn't carry on that goal-scoring form, and I still think he's quite decent at 5.5 million, but that's all he is really, an enabler who can get ball recoveries and the odd goal contribution here and there. He has 10 goals and 10 assists for Denmark, which is an impressive record for a defensive midfielder, but Christian Eriksen is undoubtedly the best asset they have, particularly in the midfield. Now, my second option in this position is Szoboszlai, who got an assist, but Hungary were very disappointing. I expected much better from them, particularly in the opening against Switzerland, who are technically a better team, or they were the favourites in that game, but for them to win 3-1 and to demolish Hungary in the first half did surprise me. But Szoboszlai had a great cross there for Varga. Those two are by far the best Hungary options, and I wouldn't consider anybody else whatsoever. It's just a shame now that it's Germany in match Matchday 2, because that fixture in Matchday 3 against Scotland to round off the group stages could be enough to see Hungary through to the round of 16, and Szoboszlai could be a great pick in that Matchday, but I'm not a big fan of him in Matchday 2, and that's why he could be one of my transfers out if I don't use the wildcard or Limitless. And with those chips, of course, Szoboszlai would definitely be out of the door. Now, my third midfielder is Kevin De Bruyne. Let's see how he does against Slovakia, but it's not a great start, as I just mentioned, with Wout Faes, as Slovakia have taken the lead, and hopefully we are seeing some points from the Belgian assets. But Kevin De Bruyne is still one of the very best midfielders on paper. If Belgium can just knit things together in the attack and score the goals they've been doing in the qualifiers. They were unbeaten in 13 games before the Euros began. Let's see if they continue that streak or if they suffer a shocking defeat or draw against Slovakia. Now, my final midfielder hasn't played yet, and I took off Jorginho, who only got 2 points against Albania, but I'm hoping for much more from Bruno Fernandes, and I'm slightly worried about Cristiano Ronaldo and what he can do against Czech Republic, but Bruno Fernandes is a great way of covering that Portugal attack, and I would argue he's even better. I've had an awful start to Euro Fantasy, and a lot depends on my forwards to kickstart my season, but Kylian Mbappe is owned by so many Euro Fantasy managers with roughly 76% ownership that it's not going to make a big difference to my rank, but as a captain, he could propel my season and push me up the leaderboards with a good captaincy horse. So let's wait and see if he delivers against Austria tonight, and we can talk about his performance in the comment section down below. And the same goes for Lukaku, but a haul by him would go a long way to pushing my season forward, because he's only owned by roughly 20% of Euro Fantasy managers, and Slovakia is a great fixture on paper. I'm still hoping for the best, and even if Lukaku blanks in Matchday 1, I'm quite confident he can deliver for the rest of the group stage. I've only got 31 points so far, but the Portuguese, Belgian and French players haven't played yet, and they could make a massive difference, particularly those from Portugal. I'm expecting a lot from them, but 31 points is looking bleak. I'm around 1 million in rank, and that's going to change by the time this video is published. So for now, put an asterisk, which does cover a quite dreadful start to Euro Fantasy 2024, and I'll be hoping for much better. I had a decent rank in the last tournament, around 35,000, and in UCL Fantasy this season, which is identical to the Euros, I finished in the top 800 in the world in 2 out of the last 3 seasons. If I can do anything like that, I'd be very happy indeed, but it's going to be very difficult, especially given this start. I've got Mbappe as a captain tonight, and if he fails to deliver, I'm not really going to be too hopeful, but Bruno Fernandes would be my final option for the captaincy. Surely they're not all going to blank. Well, you just never know. It might seem very easy with 5 shots at the captaincy, and we do get 4 in Matchday 2. But in UCL Fantasy, I had a similar situation in Matchday 7, and none of the captains delivered. Let's now dive into my Matchday 2 squad without making any transfers, and it's Verbruggen against France. It's not looking good, isn't it? It's not looking good whatsoever in this position. But Verbruggen got 4 points against Poland despite conceding with 6 saves, and he's the youngest goalkeeper in Euros history. He has so much potential, great distribution, and I have to say he could be making a big move from Brighton in the years to come. And whilst he's there at the Seagulls, he could become one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League. On a more positive note, I've got some decent defenders in Matchday 2, including Mark Gay against Denmark. That's still a difficult game, but Denmark don't really strike me as a high-scoring team, and I think that could be very low-scoring between England and Denmark. It wouldn't surprise me if it was 1-0 either way, or a 1-1, and in fantasy terms, I would be hoping for a clean sheet here from Mark Gay, unless it's Højbjerg scoring on the other end. But honestly, I just don't see myself going for this exact setup. I'll be making some changes, and I think the midfield is my weakest part, especially given the fixture quality in Matchday 2. But Mark Gay is fine, even if Denmark isn't the easiest of games. The ball recoveries is there, and a clean sheet certainly isn't out of the cards for England. My second defender is from the host nation, and I'm going for Mittelstadt against Hungary, who are very underwhelming against Switzerland in their opener, and I think Germany could win by 2 or 3 quite easily if Hungary don't seriously improve going into the following match. But Mittelstadt has attacking potential, he can get the odd ball recovery point, and I could see Germany keeping 1 clean sheet out of the next 2 matches to round off the group stages. But Germany aren't that great defensively, and that's why I was never seriously considering a double up, but those that did go there were very unlucky against Scotland. And my final defender in the starting 11 is DeMarco, who made a big error leading to Albania's goal, which was the quickest in Euros history after just 23 seconds. But DeMarco has attacking potential. He was a bit unfortunate not to get an assist registered in Euro Fantasy, but he doesn't look great against Spain and Croatia to round out the group stage. And if you can, I definitely move him on for better options around 5 million. I have my best midfielder on the bench, so the midfield four you're going to see on screen doesn't look particularly great. With Højbjerg facing England, I think 3 or 4 points is doable with the ball recoveries, but in terms of goals or assists, I'd be very surprised if Højbjerg could register that. If he were to do so, you could be looking at a massive haul from a mega differential at just 5.5 million in terms of price. My second midfielder is Szoboszlai against Germany. He is a quality player for his national team, but I'm not expecting much here against the host nation, who are now one of the favourites to win the tournament, especially after the demolition of Scotland, and Hungary were very poor against Switzerland. It really surprised me. They can still revert the situation and make a comeback, but it's not looking very likely, and they'll be hoping to finish third in that group. And speaking of third, my third midfielder is Kevin De Bruyne, and he's going to be facing Romania, which doesn't look that easy now after their 3-0 win against Ukraine. So maybe Romania will be the toughest game left for Belgium, and they need that win against Slovakia to start things off. And if they don't, the pressure will seriously be on them against Romania, and you could be looking at Belgium struggling to advance to the next round. And that's why it's so crucial to kick things off with a win in Matchday 1. So let's wait and see if they get the job done in the remainder of this game. And my fourth and final midfielder in the starting 11 is Jorginho at just 5 million. He's a potential penalty taker, but he has missed his last 4 penalties for Italy, and he only made 1 ball recovery against Albania. He made a lot of passes, actually the most of any player in the Euros since 2016, and that was Toni Kroos, but that doesn't get you any fantasy points. So unfortunately, Jorginho, in his best fixture against Albania, didn't produce any points, and against Spain or Croatia, I think returns will be very unlikely. This front three looks incredible on paper, but so far it has been very disappointing, and Harry Kane faces Denmark. I think he will score in the group stages, which is something he didn't do in the previous Euro tournament. He was a very late bloomer, and he started scoring goals in the round of 16, quarterfinals and semi-finals, so really stepped up in those big games. But in the group stages, England actually struggled to score goals in general, and Harry Kane wasn't on the mark, and he missed a big chance against Serbia. But to be fair, I'd class that as a great save, and Harry Kane did everything he could, and in the first half he only had 1 touch against Serbia. He was very disappointing overall, him and Phil Foden in particular, and of course Bellingham and Saka were the standout attackers, but even Saka faded in the second half. And my second player in the attack is Lukaku against Romania. Let's wait and see if Belgium can score 2 or 3 goals against them, which might be very difficult now, and this double up in Belgium might not work on the Limitless, Wildcard, or using free transfers. So this could be a major mistake from my team selection, which I built over the last few weeks, and looking at all these stats and these forms of teams and players might be all for nothing, and the casuals will prosper in Euro Fantasy. My final forward though is Kylian Mbappe against the Netherlands, and regardless of what happens against Austria tonight, I think Mbappe will be in my team no matter what chip I use in Matchday 2, and if I just use free transfers, Mbappe is going to be a set and forget option. He hasn't scored at the Euros yet, but that might change by the time he faces Austria, and I think this is going to be a tournament where he's going to compete for the Golden Boot, and France could go all the way. The bench is vital in Euro Fantasy, and I'm still getting questions about it. So the way it works is those that play later in the match day should be on your bench when you're structuring your team, and then once the players in your starting 11 have played, you can sub out your low scoring players for those on your bench who haven't played yet. And you can also change the captaincy on every single day within a match day. I've been asked this question countless of times, and I've tried to explain it as many times as possible in live streams and videos, but some people still ask the question, and I want to make that very clear because you want to maximize your chances of scoring points. I mean, I'm doing both of these things, the substitutions and change the captaincy, and I'm not scoring many points in the process. So if you're not doing that, you're just minimizing your chances of doing well in Euro Fantasy. But I've got Diogo Costa, Bruno Fernandes and Cancelo against Turkey as things stand, and I don't expect that to change. I think I'll go for 2 or 3 Portugal players, irrespective of what I finally decide on in terms of my chip strategy for Matchday 2. And Wout Fast faces Romania. That's not looking particularly great at the moment, considering how Matchday 1 has gone, with Romania looking very impressive against Ukraine. But in terms of the captaincy, I'm going to keep it very simple. I've got 2 options on the 19th of June, and I'm going for Mittelstadt against Hungary, but my alternative is Szoboszlai with this 15-man squad. On the 20th of June, I have Harry Kane. On the 21st, it'll be Kylian Mbappe. And on the 22nd, I would likely go for Bruno Fernandes, but I wouldn't rule out Kevin De Bruyne either. Let's now go into the updated versions of the Limitless and Wildcard after several results on Sunday and also the Monday afternoon match between Ukraine and Romania. The first updated team will be the Limitless, and that's why I'm 13 million over budget. So it's like a free hit from FPL. You build a team for one match day only, and then your squad reverts to how it was before you activate the chip. But in this case, you have no budget restrictions whatsoever, and I've gone for Neuer and Diogo Costa in goal, and one defensive double up with João Cancelo for that Portuguese defence. Castagna, Gvardiol, Akanji, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Kevin De Bruyne, Bellingham, who scored a great header against Serbia and was awarded Player of the Match. He even made ball recoveries on top of it. I've gone for 2 Germany midfielders in Musiala and Wirtz. Both of them were very impressive in that opener. And also Bruno Fernandes, who for me is one of the best midfielders in the game, irrespective of what happens in Matchday 1. Lukaku, Kane and Mbappe up front. But I have to say I'm quite tempted by Ronaldo, and in that case you'd maybe downgrade or change one of the other players like Cancelo or Diogo Costa. Let me know what you think of this updated Limitless team. But next up will be the updated Wildcard. With this chip, you are limited in terms of budget. You have to adhere to 100 million for the group stages. Then you get a 5 million increase in your budget in Matchday 4 for the round of 16. But these changes are permanent, unlike the Limitless, and I've covered both chips and the best time to use both of them in the chip strategy guide, so be sure to check it out. And also in my how to play video, everything you need to know about Euro Fantasy is covered. But on the wildcard, I'd consider Pickford and Diogo Costa. It might seem like a lot of money to invest in the goalkeepers, and I understand that, but I'm not a big fan of the cheaper options. For example, the 4 million Romanian goalkeeper looks pretty good, but he does face Belgium in Matchday 2. You might want to consider him. Then you have a Bruggen, who I'm a very big fan of. I think he has a lot of potential, but he faces France in Matchday 2. And Lunin, after that performance in Matchday 1, I don't think anybody will be looking to buy him in at this point. But I've gone for Gay, Mittelstadt, Kunde, Akanji and Wout Fass for the defensive line. De Bruyne, Saka, Baumgartner from Austria. I think he could be a great differential with 1% ownership at just 6.5 million. Florian Wirtz and Bruno Fernandes. And up front, Lukaku, Yamal and Mbappe. So you've got a nice balance here in terms of different teams covered and also different price points. And Yamal was very impressive against Croatia, and he hasn't scored for Spain that many times, but he's only played a handful of matches for La Roja. And for me, Yamal is one of the best talents in world football. He has so much potential. It's through the roof. And there are some things you can change, of course, both on the wildcard and Limitless to your liking. And I want to see your thoughts down in the comment section below. But for example, you could go for Musiala instead of Saka, maybe Kai Havertz up front, or go for Cristiano Ronaldo, as I've said a few times. Kevin De Bruyne could be downgraded if you feel he's not worth that price tag, but I still think he's a quality player, and it's just about the finishers around him doing the business, because De Bruyne will always create chances for his teammates. But overall, I think that's a very solid wildcard team, and it's quite similar to the Limitless, but of course there are some clear downgrades to adhere to the budget. But I have to say, this will be very strong, and I'm tempted to play either the wildcard or Limitless in Matchday 2, and at the moment I'm leaning towards the Limitless in this upcoming deadline. There is still a chance I use no chips in Matchday 2 and instead focus on 2 free transfers by buying Chakvetadze and Wirtz for Jorginho and Szoboszlai, but the most likely scenario at the moment is using the Limitless in Matchday 2. I'm quite set on using that chip in either Matchday 2 or 3. With the wildcard, I'm quite flexible and I'm open to saving it for Matchday 5 as discussed in the chip strategy video and podcast, but overall I'm keeping my options open, and once all the Matchday 1 games have concluded, I'll then decide whether to use 2 free transfers like the ones you see on screen, or go for the Limitless or wildcard for the upcoming deadline. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's try to get this video to the 200 likes and let's keep on pushing towards 25,000 subscribers and new goals. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the other links in the description below for my Patreon, the Championships Discord server, Euro Fantasy League, Draft Town, and also Spotify. A 5-star review would be greatly appreciated if you enjoy my content. And in terms of channel members and patrons, you do get early access to my videos and many other perks like priority reply to comments, so be sure to check that out. And every month I give 10 memberships on YouTube and it's randomly allocated. I have nothing to do in terms of choosing, no favoritism whatsoever. Take care, enjoy the football. I wish you all the best of luck for match day 1, 2 and the rest of the tournament, and I'll see you next time.